Miracosta Loyola match, such a great rivalry?
Well, thanks you guys for having us on. This is a true thrill to be here with you guys again. But I think to answer your question, Randy and Tarek, Southern California is the hotbed for boys volleyball. And you've got two perennial powers in Miracosta and Loyola High School for the last, 30 plus years. And Loyola's the commuter school, the private commuter school, and Miracosta is the public school in Manhattan Beach. So we get a lot of those kids from Manhattan Beach. So to be honest with you, I think it's bragging rights for the weekend or for the year, if you will, down in Manhattan Beach for some of these kids that are coming to Loyola from Manhattan Beach.
This is kind of the same question for both of you, but I'm going to start with Coach first. Coach, what makes Sean such a great player? And then, Sean, I want you to follow up, and I want you to explain why you think you're such a great player.
Well, Sean was special ever since I first saw him play at around 12 years old. The thing that makes him special and that stands out amongst all of his other peers is his humbleness. He's matured into a pretty incredible leader this year. He's played varsity in the last 2 years and was the underclassman. And as a junior this year, he's really stepped up that leadership role. But the part about him that I enjoyed the most is his humbleness. He won't tell you this, but I will. He's the top player in the country in his class by far. And if you were to ask him that, he'd probably smile and laugh. And he said, "I'm just doing what I'm supposed to be doing." So, it's more than volleyball with him, as far as what makes him a great player.
Perfect. So this is a good opportunity for Sean to grow a little bit. Okay, Sean, you got to tell us what makes you so good, man. What are you so confident in when you're on the playing surface there?
Thank you. And I'd say I'm a good player and all, but there's always room to get better. And I'd say for sure I'm coachable and just easy. I'd say I just focus on playing well with my teammates and try to create a good culture with whoever I'm playing with. That's really my main goal, and I feel like that helps accelerate everyone's playing, including my own.
Mike, you've been around this a long time, and you accumulate so many championships. You and I had a little bit of a paper trail, and you corrected me that I didn't even have enough championships for you. I've lost track. So that gets to the point. What are the expectation levels for you now? Is it CIF Open Division Championship or Division I Championship, state regionals? What is the expectation? If you don't win a title, is it a bad year?
I don't think so. I think every year the bullseye's on our back, just with the success that we've had, the last 15, 20 years in the boys volleyball scene. Our expectation every year is to A, win league, and then B, win a CIF championship, and then C, get to that state regional and win that. We've been able to do that twice where we've won both a CIF and a state regional together. And so that's our goal every year. Every year you get a new crop of kids. And so it's just rebuilding. The mantra that we use is basically we compare our season to building a house. It starts with laying the foundation and then the framework. And then hopefully by CIF title night and coming home on that bus, we're going to turn that key and walk into the house that we built together.
Sean, if you're playing outside hitter, my guess is you get up pretty good, man. You've probably got some boosties. But I want to talk a little bit about what else you do well, man. I mean, so you're killing the ball, but talk about, your passing and talk about your serving. What are some other aspects of the game that you enjoy the most?
I really enjoy passing because it really makes me focus. Day in and day out, you can always get better at passing. I'd say everyone would agree on that. There's always room to improve passing. And I really try to pride myself on being as good of a passer as I can be. Along with serving, there's always room to improve with serving. You can get a faster serve, more controlled serve. And you can always really just work on your game, every single part. Hitting as well. There's always room to get better there.
We always strive for perfection in life, and we never really can achieve it. Although Sean Kelly last year at a match had 19 kills and no hitting errors. That's hard to imagine. I think that's like an .850 hitting percentage. in volleyball vernacular, he hit a couple shots that might have been returned, but he had no errors. And 19 putaways is sensational. So, Sean, when you have a match like that, do you feel like you've almost achieved perfection?
No, definitely not, because there's always the next game, and it always seems to be that the next game you hit much, much worse, and it's really just a big letdown. So really, you just want to do your best to continue that over a long period of time, I'd say.
Well, that was against Newport Harbor, and that gets to the point that the second-ranked team, and we're going to see the poll after you guys leave us, they're ranked number 2, and you beat them already, Coach. So that makes you feel good. You have a win over Newport Harbor, but that's not a guarantee. So there's other great teams out there. There's some equality at the highest level in the CIF Southern section, isn't there?
Oh, 100%. I think I think there's 6 to 7 teams that can win the CIF this year. We caught Newport on a really good night for us and played pretty well. We'll talk about last year. We did the same thing. Went down to their place and beat them in 3, and then they turned around and got us in the CIF finals and the state regional finals. So, we're aware of that. And, after that win, we all talked and we were very excited and celebrated for 15, 20 minutes, and then it was on to the next one, right? We had to play the following Tuesday, and we prepared ourselves for that. So we know how important those wins are. We don't think about them for a long time because we've got to move on and get ready for our next match. But it was a great win against a really, really good team. And, I'm sure we'll see them again down the road in the playoffs at some point.
Coach, for anybody that's watching, can you explain my last question for you is just kind of about the fundamentals of volleyball, right? Like the foundational skills of volleyball. For anyone that's like, man, I want to be a good volleyball player. If a young kid walked in your gym and they asked you, what do I need to do to be a good volleyball player? Where do I need to start, Coach? What would you tell them?
Well, wait a minute. There's been enough Boehles that he's tutored his kids who are pretty good volleyball players. So that question is perfect for Mike Boehle.
Where did you start with them then?
I'll be honest. I'll even go farther back with when I was a child and my dad, with us and played with us at the beach when he was playing. But I started out with my kids with believe it or not, a broomstick along in between the 2 beds and balloons. We play volleyball matches with a balloon, so the feel of what it was like to keep the ball up in the air. They got competitive at a pretty early age, and I'll be honest, they were always Loyola and I was Maricosta, I think, because it riled them. And at an early age, they knew that the rivalry between Loyola and Maricosta was real. And but that's how they started. And then eventually we grew to putting a court in the backyard and starting putting the net at about 4.5, 5 feet. And the one thing that all my kids have had, and it's something that I stress, and I think Sean will attest to it, is if you can pass, which is a skill in itself, you can do a lot of different things. You're not going to come off the court if you're a very good passer. And so that's the first fundamental, is to learn to pass. All the other things, it's a technique, right? You've got to learn how to take the proper, it's footwork, it's arm swing. Setting is a skill. So I had a really funny story, if you guys don't mind. We had Dick Buckus, who you guys all know is one of the top linebackers to ever play the game of football. His grandsons played. And I'll never forget sitting at Loyola Marymount when his grandson was a freshman, and he was sitting there, and I walked over and I sat next to him and I said, hey, Dick, I said, what do you think so far? And he said, I only knew about volleyball back in Chicago, and it was a girls' sport. And that's all he said to me. And after that match, he watched our varsity play, and I walked up to him afterwards, and he said, Coach, this is a pretty fun sport. And his grandson, Ian, ended up getting a scholarship to UCLA, and played for 4 years at UCLA under John Speraw. So it was pretty neat. But, that was just a small little tidbit of, people that need to understand that this is a very, very tough sport to play. You can't just come out and pick it up. It's a skill, and kids are starting to learn it at a really early age. You'll see kids going to the beach. They have tournaments, and club is starting so early now. I have a club, MB Surf Volleyball Club in Manhattan Beach, and we have kids that are 8 years old that are already starting. So, I think that would probably be my, if you want to start playing, I think you start small, and it's getting the ball and hitting up against the wall, So that's how my boys started, and they loved it, and it turned out to be okay for all my kids there.
You mentioned girls and volleyball. That makes me think about someone on this show has sisters who played volleyball, I think. Oh, that's Sean Kelly. So your older sisters played. How much of an influence were your sisters on you becoming a volleyball player, Sean?
I were pretty big against, considering every single weekend and just about every day they were gone due to having practice or having a tournament. All of the above, really. And I'd go and watch them all the time. I'd play with them in the house when I was younger. Before I really started playing, like I'd pepper, just bump the ball back and forth and whatnot. So I'd say they really influenced me because I looked up to them a lot, especially as a kid as well.
Well, now everybody's looking up to you, especially since you're 6'7", and you're hitting over them. So that's what's going to happen. And again, Sean's only a junior. He's played some international volleyball. I know there's a friend of yours that's playing, maybe more than one, on the other side tomorrow night at Miracosta in Tread Rosenthal. He's their 6'8" setter. He's a good friend of yours, is he not, Sean?
Yes, he's a super close friend. And we've gotten close ever since he's moved out, for sure.
All right, well, good luck, guys. Mike, always a pleasure. We've known each other for a number of years. I didn't know that you and I had Dick Butkus in common. I knew him briefly many, many years ago. And believe it or not, despite that aura that he had on the football field, he was a great guy when I knew him. Mike, you take care. Best of luck tomorrow night. I know you guys will have a great season. Sean, continued growth in the volleyball world. I know you'll make an impact both locally and internationally down the road.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, you guys. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
You got it. You guys,
Sean, go to bed, get some sleep.
Get some sleep, Sean. Make sure Sean's rested. That is, I don't know how many of those matches you've been to. I've been to a couple Miracosta matches with Loyola. Usually the gym's full. They're at Loyola Marymount tomorrow, so that's probably a 5,000-seat arena. I don't know that they'll fill that. But they'll probably get 3, maybe 4,000, maybe 5, who knows. It is an event, let me tell you, because you got all D1 guys. It's like watching a college match.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that, Coach. I love how Coach talked about how passing is kind of that foundational. It kind of reminded me like in basketball, if you can play defense and you don't turn the ball over, you can kind of play. You're not going to get taken off the floor.
Right.
And I just like that the passing is kind of the equivalent to that, it sounded like.
All right, let's look at our Pacific Surfliner boys volleyball top 10. We kind of promoted it for you. Loyola is ranked number 1. That's not a shock. They should be number 1 with their win tonight over Alameda. That's good how quickly they got back home and got cleaned up for television for us. They earlier tonight disposed of Alameda quickly, and they're 16-1. Newport Harbor, who they beat earlier in the year. Beckman, Huntington Beach, and Miracosta. And you can see it's number 1 against number 5 tomorrow. And on that backside, Corona Del Mar, Servite, Mater Dei. So you got a Trinity League flavor there, along with Edison and Tesoro. That's a great group right there of the best in boys volleyball.
Coach mentioned it. There's a lot of parity. I want to say he said the top 6 or 7. Anyone could really win it. So I'm sure those teams are going to be in it in the end.
We're going to have a great city section boys volleyball match for you coming up April 11th. We're going to have Taft hosting Chatsworth. Chatsworth's currently number 2 ranked in the city section. Taft is in that 5-6 slot around there. They played earlier this year and it went 5 sets. Chatsworth won at home. Both teams have great winning records. That should be a great match, and Taft will be looking to revenge the first loss.
Sina Agassi, that's the coach over at Chatsworth. And I want to say his mentor, is it
Armand Mercado?
That's right, yeah. So a little bit of like master and teacher going at it in that city section duel.
That will be a terrific match. We're going to be thrilled to bring you that one live, 7 o'clock, April 11th. Write that one down. City matchup, 2 terrific teams. By the way, Palisades is the top-ranked team in the LA City section in boys volleyball. We're going to step out briefly. We're going to come back, have an assortment of topics for you. But we're going to step out and hear from our friends at Pacific Surfliner. Back in 30.
Southern California has always been a land of discovery. From historic gems to iconic beaches to top attractions. Let the Amtrak Pacific Surfliner be part of your journey as you explore more of the place we call home. Reconnect with the communities you love most, with the people you love most. Isn't it time you rediscovered Southern California?
I love polls tonight. We just heard from the coach, Boehle, talking about volleyball, and then we saw the boys' volleyball poll. Let's see the baseball poll, because we're starting to get the feel now, after basketball, what's going on in baseball. And there's Notre Dame, Sherman Oaks. Obviously, it's a school that had a powerhouse in basketball, won a state D1 title in hoops. They're top ranked, and Tom Dill's got another great team there. Got a great relief pitcher. Tarek will talk about him. He is tremendous.
Well, they've got 4 amazing pitchers, one being Justin Lee going to UCLA, and they've got Levi Sterling.
That's the reliever. He's got 3-4 saves already.
They just keep, and we can't forget Dean West, who is their tremendous outfielder and one of their leadoff hitters. He is a leadoff hitter. It's underrated hotbeds when it comes to high school talent. I know that I want to say there might be the most high school. The most Division I draft picks in the MLB draft might be from high school is in Southern California. Something like that. So I know, okay, when I say it's underrated, maybe it's not, but I always just feel by the time the spring rolls around, there's so much talent, and it's never always on display. You got to go out and find it, and there's just, and you can throw, any which direction, there's going to be some really good baseball talent.
And there's baseball talent in the LA City section. Palisades
That's right.
we mentioned their volleyball team. Well, their baseball team's right up there amongst the best. They have a kid by the name of Mason Edwards who's been great on the mound so far. He's a USC commit, so Edwards has been big time for the Dolphins, and they've won 9 in a row. But there's another team that's won 9 in a row in the Valley, Granada Hills. They were the best team in the city, but they didn't win the championship last year. They weren't supposed to be as good this year.
Correct.
But suddenly the Highlanders, they've won 9 in a row.
Right. That's what's been so unexpected about this year. So the last 2 years, they've won the West Valley Championship, been the #1 seed in the division, in the Open Division City final, or City playoffs, excuse me. And in both years, they've been bounced out of the first round. This year, it's like, okay, the era is over. We don't know what to expect out of the Highlanders. And here they are, 6-0 in the West Valley League. And maybe this is the team that does it. I spoke to Matt Matuzak, the coach. They have a really, really good core of senior leaders, and one being Miles Ortiz.
We can't get away from basketball. We did a wrap-up show on basketball last week, and then there was the McDonald's All-American game, and we got to talk about the boys and girls McDonald's All-American games. So let's start with the boys. The West assembled a very good team. Jared McCain, Bronny James from Southern California. They fell a little bit short in the contest. They lost, but Bronny James scored 15 points, hit 5 threes, and really proved to a lot of people that he's as good as advertised. He played with the other All-Americans and performed well.
Yeah, I don't know how much he proved, so to speak.
Oh,
but,
come on, he had 15 points.
It's an exhibition. Look, I've always said Bronny James is a capable player. He's a Division I level player, a high major player. There's no question. I don't think he was deserving of the All-American game. Randy, you've been around long enough. When you see McDonald's All-Americans take the floor, they can dominate the game. And I just haven't seen that out of Bronny in his tenure in high school. That doesn't mean he's not good, but I'm not exactly sure he deserved to be in that game. Nevertheless, he was in it, and he had some great clips.
What I'll say about Bronny James's game is this. I think it translates at every level. He's not the kind of guy that's going to score 20 or 30 points a night. That's just not his game. But he's a streaky, good shooter. And what I love, he's an elite defender, an on-ball defender. Defense travels at every level. So he can play college defense, and down the road, he can play NBA defense. He's unselfish. He makes great passes. He's a good teammate. Those are all good things that are going to make him a high-level player.
I don't disagree with anything you just said. It's always a shame to me. LeBron has this master plan to play with Bronny.
Sure.
And I do think Bronny has the capability to get to the NBA on his own merit. That's the bone I have to pick with this whole thing is Bronny is good enough, and he can get to the NBA on his own merit. But Dad has a plan, so it's expediting everything. And they want to claim him that he's like some one-and-done player. I just don't see that. But you give Bronny 2 or 3 years in college, it's a different story. Now he is the NBA guy, so we'll see.
We still don't know where he's going to go. The one thing I don't like is the fact that they didn't let him be interviewed by the local media. I think they could have. What I would have liked to have seen, I don't really care that he wasn't interviewed during the season, but they had a preseason
the media day.
A media day, And I think that's an opportunity that he could have got in front of all the media and said a few things about his senior year, but they didn't do it. But other than that, I think Bronny's had a really good year. He was a senior that developed and led his team to a good season, although by Sierra Canyon standards, they came up a little bit short.
Correct.
Anyway, let's move on to the girls' All-American game at the McDonald's. And that means Juju time. Watkins, there she is. She was the West MVP, 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists.
Yeah, Juju Watkins, we just showed a clip of her missing a rare layup. But, yeah, you know, we talk about a dominating player. Look, playing defense and scoring on the other end. This is a player that, you know, is so dynamic. She not only, you know, Melissa Hurley, head coach at Harvard Westlake, has been around high school basketball for like 40 years. She says the only girl she could even think about comparing Juju Watkins to, Cheryl Miller. Because of just, not only was she good, but the size. She's 6'2" and has guard skills and can shoot a 3. She said, you know, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, if you're 6'2", you're a post in the girls' game. But nope, not Juju Watkins. And so I think she's the face of the WNBA in about 4 years.
Yeah, and she has an insatiable appetite to get better. That's what I like. She's a great girl. She's very easy to talk with. She just wants to get better. So does UCLA in boys, now men's basketball. They came up a little bit short, and that's why we have Tarek back at studio, I think, because he's been traveling along with the Bruins. So take us back to Las Vegas.
Man.
The Gonzaga game was a great game, back and forth. Local fella from Sierra Canyon, Amari Bailey, hits the huge shot to give him the lead.
I mean, we got video. I was on the floor, and if we can roll the Amari Bailey shot, yeah, I tell you what, man, it was unbelievable. UCLA had erased an 8-point deficit with 1 minute and 5 seconds to go. This is the play. So UCLA is, you know, doomsday, and Amari Bailey hits this 3 to go up 1 with 12 seconds to go. They were down 8. Amari Bailey hits this 3. They're up 1, 12 seconds to go, and then Julian Strother comes down, Villanova play. We all know the shot. He comes behind, drop off. It's a 32-foot shot, and it sends the Bruins home.
You know, I saw Julian because he played at the Damien
That's
Classic. Right. In fact, the game, I did a TV game from the Damien Classic he played in. His team, Liberty, lost at the Damien, but he scored the team's final 21 points. He can score and he can shoot. So not a shock that he hit it from that range, but really devastating for the Bruins. But my question to you, Amari Bailey, is he going to be one and done?
I think before the Pac-12 tournament, I'd say Amari Bailey was probably going to come back. But as you know, the NCAA March Madness, basically, from conference tournament to national tournament, you can play your way into being a first-round draft pick, a lottery pick. So I think the NBA waters are a little warmer for someone like Amari Bailey, who averaged 17 points a game his last 6 games, for UCLA, which is a huge uptick. I think he ended up averaging about 11 or 12 a game. So to average nearly 20 points a game at the college level, at the highest stage, is going to garner him some attention.
Quick word on a former Camarillo star, Jaime
man.
Jaquez, who today won the Lute Olson Award as the National Player of the Year for UCLA.
What an outstanding story he is. I mean, if you would have told me, all right, Jaime Jaquez from Camarillo High is going to be the best player on UCLA for X amount of years, they're going to go to the Final Four and 2 Sweet 16s, I would have looked at you like you had a third eye. Like, who? Not Jaime Jaquez. And you know what? He got better. He developed a better jump shot. He became a better defender and one heck of a leader. And you know what, man? Probably one of the best human beings you might ever cover. Just such a nice guy and a true pro all the way through. He's going to the NBA. What he's going to be in the NBA, Randy, we don't know. But I think he'll be a great role player that'll impact a winning franchise.
I saw him at Camarillo. I thought he was really good. Again, when you talk about Strother and Jaquez and Amari Bailey, you see them in high school, you know they're going to be very good. You just don't know how good they're going to be.
Exactly.
We don't know how good the Cal State Northridge basketball program is going to be either.
Oh,
and
what a transition.
Trent Johnson is the latest coach to go bye-bye.
Oh, man.
And it opens it up. And what makes it local for high school is Andre Chevalier of Sierra Canyon was a Hall of Fame point guard for the Matadors. Is Andre Chevalier going to leave and go there? Are they going to want him? Is Dave Rabibo of Harvard Westlake the guy? Who knows?
That's what makes It's okay. So if you give me 30 seconds here, so
You have a minute and a half.
Okay, so Bobby Braswell was there for 17 years.
Right.
Took him to the national tournament. It's like the best CSUN's ever been. Okay, he leaves. They bring in Reggie Theus. Big name, NBA. They're horrible. No connection. Total disconnect. It's like not even knowing the room. He gets fired. They bring in Mark Gottfried from NC State. The guy was under FBI investigation. He only lasted 2 years. He was out of there. So then they bring in Trent Johnson, another big name. TCU, LSU, Nevada, Stanford. Huge programs. Not just, these big names aren't going to work. So the reason you bring up that local interest is because I think the local community that wants to see CSUN basketball have success knows that the program has to have local talent on it. And so when you think about local talent, you think about a coach that has local ties to the area. Why not a David Rabibo? Why not an Andre Chevalier or a local junior college coach? I'll give you one more name everyone wants to see it at the Matadors, at the Matadome, and that's Danny Sprinkle. He's now the coach at Montana State, and he used to be an assistant at CSUN. So there's some names, and they're names that resonate with the local community, which I think everyone is hoping the new AD can pull the trigger on.
And you're going to be where tomorrow?
I will be at St. Francis Chaminade Baseball.
You're getting into the baseball season. Finally.
I'm downshifting into baseball season.
Yeah, it's tough. I got to admit, it's been tough for me to,
I know. Basketball is so fun, and it's quite the grind. But you know what? Baseball, it's like, you get out in the afternoons, the sun's out, grass. It's like
the sun's out?
Yeah.
What city do you live in?
Something about the vibe, man. Baseball and softball, and even track and field. They're just, it keeps you busy, but they're not as rigorous.
Well, Larry's rigorous. He wants us to get off the air because we've been on for a half an hour. We hope you've enjoyed it. We want to thank the guys at Loyola, Mike Boehle and Sean Kelly. Give us a little preview, a little insight into the big volleyball match tomorrow as Loyola plays Maricosta. Tarek, thanks a lot. Great job as always. We're going to be back next Thursday live at 9 o'clock. We'll have a little bit more baseball for you. We're getting into baseball. Hey, it was opening day in the majors today as well. So for Tarek, I'm Randy. So long for now. We'll see you next week right here on LA 36 SoCal Prep Report. Good night, everybody.